We've won 4 of the 6 trophies we need to complete the Viking Conquest challenge. And we might be about to win trophy number 5 because we're 1 point behind FC Midtjylland with 1 game to go. And that game is against FC Midtjylland. Spurred on by our home fans, we went on the offensive quickly. Diaz collected the ball on the near wing, and we worked it into the middle, then back to Diaz, who touched it to Madime to give us the lead. Things only got better for us later in the match. This time we had space down the far side. Yildirim put a cross all the way over to Diaz, who knocked it towards the keeper, who spilled the ball, allowing Berger to tap in a second. Midtjylland then lost all composure when they tried to play out from the back, giving the ball away to us on the edge of the attacking third, where Sagawa unleashed a pile driver to make it 3. And right on the stroke of half time, another Yildirim cross was again met by Diaz, but this time he found the back of the net. 4-0 at half time, surely there's no way back for Midtjylland now. To make sure of that, 10 minutes into the second half, a free kick was played to an open Sagawa, who scored another banger. Then 10 minutes after that, Gonzalez hit the post, but followed up his own shot to make it 6. And then with 10 minutes to go, we scored from another set piece routine. But incredibly, we weren't done there. In the 90th minute, Sagawa scored his hat-trick to seal my biggest win of the series and clinch the Danish Superliga title, the 5th trophy we need to win to complete the Viking Conquest challenge. Although we now only have 1 season left to win the Champions League and officially complete the challenge, and I think that might be impossible. So we are going to continue until that Champions League is won. It just might not be within the 15 season limit. We've been given 8 million to try and help with that challenge. So we spent 7.5 million on 3 players, as well as 3 further players joining on free transfers. Sven Lorenz joins on a free from Bayern Munich to be our new starting Segundo Volante in the middle of the park. But for 2.4 million from Boca Juniors, I think Christian Fiorenza is going to be a monster in the middle of our attack. Now that we've won the Superliga, our entire focus is on the Champions League. I think we've been shafted though by the draw. We've got to play 3 of the top 10 teams in Europe, but I reckon there's some winnable games in there. Reginaldo Madime scored himself a hat-trick in an almighty 6-1 win at home against Lille, which is one of the games I thought we would be able to win. But we then lost 3-2 away at Porto, and then drew 1-1 away at Shakhtar Donetsk, which were the other 2 games I felt pretty confident about winning. As expected, we then lost to Bayer Leverkusen and Manchester City, although they were much closer matches than I expected, as we narrowly lost 2-1 in both games. But then the team surprised me as we beat Monaco 3-0 and deservedly beat Atletico Madrid 2-1 at home, with Madime scoring a brace. And finally, we drew 2-2 away at Newcastle United, who are on their way to winning their 4th Premier League title in a row. So that means we finish a comfortable 18th in the league phase and qualify for the knockouts. In the playoff round, we're up against Barcelona, and Leonardo Diaz scored just 3 minutes into the match. But despite having 16 shots to Barca's 9, their extra quality shone through as they scored twice in the final 20 minutes of the game to win the first leg 2-1. And again in the second leg, we created more chances with 12 shots to 9, but Barca were the only team to score, winning 3-1 on aggregate. Which does mean we have failed the time-based element of the Viking Conquest challenge. But we are going to keep going until we win that Champions League. By the end of the regular season, we're in another title fight as we sit 4 points behind Midtjylland in the league table. But a season-ending injury to Madime killed our chances of claiming the title for a second season in a row. A loss to Midtjylland and to AGF, as well as a few draws, meant we never really got close to challenging for the top spots. We finished second in the table, but at least that's still good enough for a Champions League place next season. Thanks to last season's Champions League run, we now have a budget of 16 million, which could rise astronomically. Bayer Leverkusen have made a £36.5 million bid for Madime, but apparently he doesn't want to leave the club, and I don't really want to lose him, so I said no. They then came back in with a £46 million bid, which I also said no to. But when they offered me 60 million, I really couldn't say no. But Reginaldo could say no. so he's going to stay with us for the next season. 60 million is a lot to miss out on, but I don't mind this season because we actually have sold a lot of other players. £49 million worth of players to be exact, as we let go of 2 key players in Leonardo Diaz and Gonzalez. We've managed to replace them for £33 million and improve the team in the process. David Teglashi becomes the club's record signing as he joins from Dutch side Groningen for £18.5 million to replace Diaz on the left wing. And we also signed pace merchant Gianluca Superbi from Serie B side Lecce to play second fiddle to Madime when he inevitably gets a third long-term injury. Of course, we did partly sign him for his name. A goal scorer called Superbi is just chef's kiss. As we only came second last season, we enter the Champions League third qualifying round. Here we're up against Lyon, and the main man Reginaldo Madime scored a hat-trick in the first leg, which helped us to a 6-3 victory over the French on aggregate. It means we have to play Ajax in the final qualifying round, where we scored 2 goals, 82 minutes apart from each other, to win the first leg in Amsterdam 2-1. We then played out a narrow 2-2 draw back at our place to squeeze past the Dutch 4-3 on aggregate and make another Champions League phase. Here we're getting to play some former rivals, and we've been drawn against AIK, Vikinger and Molde. Madime scored the only goal of the game against Molde, as we just beat the Norwegians. When we welcomed AIK, the Swedes took the lead on the stroke of half-time. Thankfully though, Gianluca Superbi scored a superb goal past our former goalkeeper Daichi Ito to make sure we drew the match. But when we travelled to Iceland, it was Vikinger who came out on top, as they beat us 1-0, so not exactly the results we were hoping and expecting. It got stranger though, because we then beat AC Milan 4-0 at home, with Superbi scoring a brace, and then we travelled to Leverkusen and beat Bayer 2-0 really convincingly. A loss to Porto and draws with Bayern Munich and Chelsea rounded off a very topsy-turvy Champions League phase. This left us 16 in the league phase table and making the knockouts of the tournament. But we've been drawn against FC Midtjylland in the playoff round, 2 Danish sides against each other. But in the first leg, our rivals ran away with a 2-0 victory, and we're staring down another early exit. But Reginaldo Madime scored himself a hat-trick in the first 17 minutes of the second leg to put us in front on aggregates, only for Midtjylland to level things up in the second half, taking the game to extra time. But Madime said, "No worries lads, I've got this," and he scored twice more in extra time to see us progress as 5-3 winners. In the round of 16, we've been drawn against Liverpool, who took the lead at our place 30 minutes in. But in the second half, that special boy Madime scored twice to win us the first leg 2-1 and give us a massive chance of reaching the quarterfinals. But at Anfield, Liverpool proved to be too strong, winning the match comfortably 3-0 and knocking us out. But we did make progress this season, and that's all you can ask for. As for the league, at the end of the regular season, this time it's us and Copenhagen in the fight for the title. But after beating Copenhagen 4-1 in the championship group, we had the advantage for the rest of the title race, and Copenhagen actually dropped off, losing a few games and drawing it some others. So in the end, we win the title by 6 points and qualify directly to the Champions League phase. With 26 million to spend this summer, we need to sign some cracking players to keep progressing in the Champions League. However, it was a quiet summer, as we only sold Sagawa for 15 million and brought in 3 players for 31 million pounds, with Pip and Bene being more rotational options. Antonio Terreo, on the other hand though, is going to start ahead of Zender on the right wing, as the perfectionist inside forward is on paper a huge upgrade. It's another mixed bag of fixtures in the Champions League, where we'll play against another former rival in Hammarby, who we just managed to beat 1-0 thanks to David Teglashi. We also managed to beat RB Salzburg 4-0, as youth academy prospect Brian Bannis scored, as well as beating Getafe 2-0 at home. Then we got some really impressive wins over Bayern Munich and Juventus, as we beat both of the Champions League giants 2-1. But we miss out on a top 8 spot by a single point thanks to losses to Villarreal, PSG and Benfica. Despite a great league phase, We then fell apart in the first leg of the playoff round, losing 2-0 away to RB Leipzig. David Teglashi did then score 2 first-half goals in the second leg to give us a glimmer of hope that we might pull off a great comeback, but a late Leipzig goal meant they just progress as 3-2 winners on aggregate. We should get another shot at the Champions League next season though, as we have a 7-point lead at the end of the regular season. And sure enough, by beating the likes of Midtjylland in second place, AGF who sit in third, and then Copenhagen in fourth, who have had a really poor season, we clinched our third league title and second in a row. We only have 13 million to spend in season 18, so we need to do some selling. And we said goodbye to £112 million worth of players to fund a big summer of spending. We poached 20-year-old centre-back Morten Andersen from rivals Midtjylland for just £13 million. And then we got 20-year-old goalkeeper Anders Pedersen from our other rivals Copenhagen for just £11 million, although he won't be our starting keeper. That's going to be Armando Alonso, who we got for the insanely cheap release fee clause of £8.5 million from Real Sporting Gijón. In fact, all 7 new signings are defensively minded, and we're going to need all the defence we can get, because we've been given a horrible draw in the Champions League. However, the improved defence was making a huge impact, and our attack was taking their chances. We beat Bayer Leverkusen and Napoli 1-0, before travelling to England and beating Man City 2-0. We also travelled to northern France to play Lille and won 3-0, before then welcoming Borussia Dortmund and thrashing the Germans 4-0. We did lose one game, AC Milan came to our place and battered us 3-0, but further wins against RB Salzburg and Red Star Belgrade mean we end up in second place in the league phase table and qualify straight to the round of 16. Surely this has to make us one of the favourites to win the Champions League. Things were going our way when we went to Madrid and we beat Atletico 1-0 in the first leg of the round of 16. But then it all fell apart when they came to our place, scoring either side of the half-time break to win the tie 2-1 on aggregate and knock us out. This is so frustrating because we were so good in the league phase and I felt like we had such a great opportunity to go and win the whole thing and we've thrown it away. Luckily, we won all but one of our regular season games in the Superliga, so we're going to be able to try again next season. We did end up losing to Midtjylland in the championship group, but given the 18-point lead that we had, it didn't matter. We win the title and we broke the league's points record by 2 to make it 3 in a row. With just 27 million to spend this summer, is that enough to take us to the Champions League title? We spent 21 million on Hayati Tufan, the only summer signing we made to improve our attacking midfield in the hope of scoring just a couple of extra goals to help us get further in the Champions League. After our performance in the league phase last season, I'm hoping we can do the same again with a much weaker group of teams to come up against. Antonio Terreo scored a brace as we beat Astana 4-0 at home, and he also scored the winning goal when we beat Feyenoord 2-1 in Rotterdam. David Teglashi scored our first goal against Monaco before we subbed him off for Brian Bannis, who scored our third goal to win 3-1. Bannis then scored twice in the first 15 minutes against Stroms Godset as we beat them 3-0 in Norway. And we can't forget about Reginaldo Medina, who scored a 91st minute winner to beat Freiburg 3-2. We did lose 2-0 to Real Madrid despite having more shots, and we had goalless draws with Athletic Club and PSG. But that was enough to finish 7th in the league phase and go straight to the round of 16. That's twice now we've finished in the top 8 of the Champions League. Surely this makes us one of the best teams in Europe. We thought we'd been given a kind draw against Benfica in the round of 16, especially when we scored 6 minutes in, but by half time, we were 2-1 down and staring down a big away defeat. However, Benfica brought down Bene on the edge of the penalty area, leading to Morten Andersen slotting home a penalty. Deglashi then gave us the lead in the 87th minute, before summer signing Tufan scored in the 95th minute to give us a very important extra goal. In the second leg at our place, we scored 4 first half goals, which was lucky, because in the second half, Benfica scored 3, meaning we do progress, but only as 8-5 aggregate winners. So for the first time ever, we're in the quarterfinals, and we're against Man City, who we beat last season pretty convincingly. And just 20 minutes into the first leg, We had a 2-goal lead thanks to Bene's pile driver and Fiorenza's close range efforts. City did pull one back, but we defended well and emerged as 2-1 winners. At our place, there was only one goal. Luckily, it was Christian Fiorenza's goal, which meant we win 3-1 on aggregate and move to the semi-finals to take on Liverpool, who did beat us 4-2 on aggregate in the round of 16 3 seasons ago. So we were preparing ourselves for a tough first leg at Anfield. But what transpired was perhaps the performance of the entire series, as we thrashed Liverpool 5-0 in front of their own fans, showing no mercy as we got revenge for the defeat 3 seasons prior. The second leg wasn't quite as explosive, but goals from Taglashi and Bene meant we won 2-0 on the night, and incredibly, 7-0 on aggregate. Now all we need to do is beat PSG to complete the challenge. We drew 0-0 with them earlier in the season, and with 10 shots and a higher XG, you could argue we were the better side. So I'm going to say heading into the final, we are the slight favourites. I just hope our players didn't treat the Liverpool semi-final game as our cup final. So as we step out onto the Camp Nou pitch, we have a chance to create history and complete the Viking Conquest challenge. 50 seconds in, we were on the front foot, working the ball across the edge of the attacking third. But Bene spotted the run of Torreo, whose first time effort beat the keeper and gave us the lead. Just 60 seconds later, we were once again on the attack, as Fiorenza threaded the ball through to Bene, who was stopped as he was about to shoot. But we kept possession and had a shot, only for the ball to bounce to safety off the woodwork. Taglashi then picked up the ball from a throw-in and drove into the area, only to be tripped up, and the referee awarded us a penalty. So up steps Anderson, who had his effort saved. In what was the last highlight of the half, we head into the break 1-0 up. We created more chances early in the second half when left-back Rotter had his effort saved, but PSG were careless in possession and gifted the ball back to us. Medime advancing, but his shot could only find the crossbar. But luckily, we didn't need another goal. We held PSG to just 2 shots all match, and our goal 60 seconds in was enough to win the match and the Champions League for FC Nordsjælland, completing the Viking Conquest challenge. If you enjoyed this adventure, I know you're going to love the Glory Hunter challenge. Here I've got to win Europe's top 5 leagues and their cups, as well as all 3 European competitions. Click the thumbnail on screen to find out how I got on and if I could complete that challenge within the 20 season limit.